everyone. Today, before we take our quiz on bees to review what we've learned, I have one more book, expository text, that I want to share with you about bees. It's titled Being a Bee by Ginny Johnson and Lucy Davy. This is a Scholastics book. This book will review most everything that we've learned. This is a very interesting book. It begins with a table of contents, like most expository texts, and it will tell me the different topics. The table of contents tell me the topics and what page I can find them on. I am going to read the whole book, the entire book. That's why I'm not going to use the table of contents today. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It's a sunny summer's day and bees are busy flying from flower to flower. A bee is a kind of an insect. It has 3 pairs of legs and 2 pairs of wings, which move so fast they make a buzzing noise. There are thousands of different kinds of bees, but the bees we are going to talk about in this book are honey bees. The honeybee's hairy body is covered in yellow and black stripes, warning other animals not to get too close. Female bees have a stinger at the end of their body and will use it to defend themselves and their family. Watch out, a bee sting can hurt. Meet the family. Honeybees live together in big families called colonies. The colony is home to the queen bee and as many as 50,000 worker bees. They build the nest, look after the young bees, and gather nectar and pollen from plants. All of the worker bees are females. There are also some male bees in the colony. They are called, that's right, drones. And their job is to help the bee in the hive. Queen bee. The mother of all the bees in the colony is the queen bee. The queen bee spends most of her life in the nest. Her worker daughters bring her food and groom her. In winter, they huddle around the queen to keep her warm. In summer, they fan their wings to keep her cool. A queen can live between 4 and 7 years, the longest of any bee. The worker bee will survive for only about 45 days, while a drone can live twice as long. The queen lays all the eggs for the colony. Sometimes she lays as many as 1,000 eggs a day. I've even read in a different book that it could be up to 2,000 eggs a day. Each one sits in its own little part of the nest called a cell. Inside the nest. Wild honeybees make their nests in trees or between rocks, but many bees also nest in boxes called hives, which people build for them. Wooden frames filled with lots of 6-sided wax cells hang down from the top of the hive. Hexagons. There are eggs in some of these cells. Others hold young bees or stores of food. The bees make the wax from their bodies. A group of wax cells is called a comb. New bees. Bee eggs hatch into small, wriggly creatures called larvae. It takes 21 days for larvae to grow into an adult bee. At first, the growing bee is fed royal jelly, a rich, sugary food by the worker bees in the nest. Later, it is fed pollen and honey from the colony's food stores. A growing queen bee gets special treatment. She is fed royal jelly the whole time she is growing up, which helps to prepare her for a life of laying eggs. First days. When a young bee is fully grown, she leaves the cell she has been living in. Her first job is to clean it. I remember that information. And she cleans other cells too. It's important the cells are clean so they are ready for the next group of larvae to store food. When she is about 3 days old, the young bee begins to feed the new larva. Then, in the second week of life, her job changes. She starts building and repairing the nest and making new wax cells. Oops, didn't show you the picture. Working in the hive. When she is about 3 weeks old, the bee starts another new job. She waits near the entrance of the hive, ready to take pollen and nectar from other bees flying home who have been collecting it. She also guards the entrance, checking that all the returning bees are from her family and are not looking to steal honey. Guard bees can tell if bees are from other hives by their smell, and then they attack and chase them away. Flying out. When the bee is about 22 days old, that's over 3 weeks. She's been a bee for about 3 weeks. She is an adult and ready to gather food. She does a few short flights to practice flying and to learn to find her way home. Then she flies out into the open air to search for flowers. The bee flies from plant to plant collecting nectar and pollen. Flower pollen is like yellow dust, and the bee carries it in parts of her back legs called pollen baskets. Nectar is a sweet liquid made by flowers. When the bee finds it, she sucks it up into an extra stomach called a honey sac. Skip the word, so sorry. Dancing bees. Oh, I love that lesson about the dance they do. When a worker bee finds a patch of flower full of nectar and pollen, she tells the other bees how to find it. To do this, she does a dance. First, the bee runs around in a circle. Then she cuts across the circle at an angle to show the other bees the direction they should fly in. To tell them how far away the flowers are, she waggles her body. Waggle, waggle. The more she waggles and wiggles, the further the other bees know they have to go. And here is the figure 8 bee dance that we learned about. Flower to flower. Flowering plants need pollen from a flower of the same kind to help new plants grow. Bees can help flowers get pollen. When the bee lands on a flower, its body gets covered in pollen. When it visits the next flower, some of this pollen brushes off and pollinates the plant. Other insects, as well as birds and bats, pollinate flowers too, but bees are the most important pollinators. Without bees, many plants would not be able to produce seeds. Making honey. Ha! Love that part. Bees use nectar to make honey, which they store in their hive until it's time to eat. A lot of work goes into making honey, so it's important for all bees to work together. It takes about 10 million trips out from the nest to make enough honey to fill 1 jar. Oh, I am so grateful for the honey that we have. Lots of other animals, including people, like to eat honey, and they collect it from bees' nests. When people who keep bees do this, they always make sure they leave enough honey for the bees to eat. A new nest. Sometimes a bee colony gets too big. When this happens, the queen may leave the nest with all the queen leaves the nest with all the older workers and drones in a big group called a swarm. Workers called scouts look for a place to make a new nest. When they have found one, their queen and the other bees join them. We did not read about this in any other book yet. In the old nest, a new queen hatches, and she begins her own hive. Wow, she builds her own colony in there. Beekeeping. We need bees to pollinate our plants, and we love the honey that they make. But bees don't need humans. Wild bees can build their own nests. We can, though, provide bees with a cozy hive home and in return take some of their honey. During the summer months, bees make more honey than they need. And maybe we can use the honey that they don't need. When looking in a hive, a beekeeper must wear protective clothing and be very careful. Bees are not dangerous, but they will defend the hive. A beekeeper's job is to look after the bees and watch for any signs of disease while disturbing the hive as little as possible. Save the bees. Honeybees are in trouble. I didn't tell you that yet. There's much less grassland and far fewer wildflower meadows than ever before, so it's harder for bees to gather the nectar and pollen they need. Bees are also harmed by the chemicals that farmers spray on their fields to kill other bugs. You and your family can help by planting flowers in your garden and leaving wild spaces, or by planting seeds in areas or wasteland to make bee-friendly spaces. Buy local honey to support the beekeepers in your area, and tell people how important bees are for all of us. Bees matter, and the more people speak up for them, the more likely it is that they will be protected. And this book also has a glossary at the end. The glossary gives me the important words and their definition. For example, cell, a small compartment within the bee's hive. And then find out more, it gives me a list of other resources, other books that I could find with information on bees.